Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing very well. In today's video I'll be teaching you how to make this really cute mushroom pillow, which is also a very good beginner friendly project. Okay, so to make this pillow I'm going to be using two different colours of yarn. I'm using red and cream. This is the Signet Aran yarn in the colour cream, and this is Mariner chunky yarn in like red. And even though this red yarn is slightly thicker than the cream, when I tried this out with the same size hook, it was perfectly fine. So if you are using the same weight yarn, then obviously this will definitely work, but I didn't have any chunky cream yarn on these, but these two work perfectly fine together. And then you're going to need some scissors, a 3.5mm hook, a stitch marker, and some toy stuffing to stuff the pillow. So we're going to be starting off with the bottom part of the mushroom. So I'm going to be taking the cream yarn and I'm going to make a slip knot, and then I'm just going to attach it to the hook and then pull tight, and I'm going to be making a chain of 45. Once you have your chain of 45, you're then going to want to flip the chain so that the bottom is now on the top. And so where you would normally make your first stitch into the second chain from the hook, you're going to flip the chain so that obviously these back bumps are facing up, and you're going to make your single crochet into that second back bump from the hook. So you can see that there's like this kind of bump. You're going to want to insert the hook into that bump and then make your single crochet, and then I'm just going to continue to make one single crochet across into each back bump. So I'm going to find my next back bump, which is right here, make a single crochet, and then into the next, make a single crochet. So I'm going to continue this now all the way along. So I've just finished the end of row 1. I just made one single crochet into each back bump. You should now have 44 single crochets across. So we're now going to start row 2, and row 2 is going to be the row that we repeat for until row 6. So we're going to turn the work and we're going to make one single crochet into that same stitch, and I'm going to weave this end in as I go. So I'm going to wrap it around the top of the hook and then make my single crochet into that first stitch, and then I'm going to make one single crochet into each stitch across. I'm just going to keep including that tail so that it weaves in. So it's just one single crochet into each stitch. And because this is the row we'll be repeating, once you get to the end of the row, you're just going to want to turn the work and repeat the same thing, one single crochet into each stitch across, and then again row 4, turn the work, one single crochet into each stitch across, and I'm going to continue that until I reach row 6. So I will meet you back when I have finished my 6th row. So I've just finished my 6th row, and now I'm going to start row 7, and for the next 2 rows, these rows are going to be what we repeat. So I'm going to do row 7 and then row 8, and then from that we will be repeating row 7, row 8, row 7, row 8, all the way up until row 29. But let's just start with row 7. So I'm going to turn the work, and then I'm going to skip the first stitch and just make a single crochet into the second stitch, like that. And then I'm just going to make one single crochet across the row, and then I'm going to stop once I have reached my very last 2 stitches of the row. So I will make my single crochets across, and then I will meet you back once I have got my last 2 to crochet into. So I've now got my last 2 stitches of the row, so I'm going to skip the second to last stitch, and then I'm going to make a single crochet into that very last stitch, like that. And that is the end of row 7. So by skipping a stitch at either side, we have basically decreased 2 stitches. So we had 44 stitches at the beginning, and now we have 42 stitches at row 7. So row 7 is what I'm going to be referring to as a decrease row, and then row 8 is going to be referred to as a normal row, so there is no decreases in a normal row. So for row 8 I'm going to turn the work and I'm going to make a single crochet into the first stitch, and then I'm going to make a single crochet into each stitch across, so there'll be no increases in this row, just one in each stitch. So I've just finished my 8th row, so a good way to think of it from this point forward is that if you are on a row number that is a odd number, that means that you are going to be doing a decrease row. If you are on a row number that is a even number, then you are doing a normal row. For example, if you are on row 9, that means that it's a decrease row. If you are on row 10, that means that it is a normal row. So I'm going to continue crocheting row 7 and then row 8 and then row 7 and then row 8 until I reach row 28, and then I'm going to stop. So I'm going to come back once I have finished row 28, which will be a normal row, and then I will come back for row 29. Okay, so I've just finished my 28th row, so we're now going to start row 29. So I'm going to turn the work, and for row 29 I'm just going to do a normal row. So even though row 28 was a normal row, row 29 will also be a normal row, so it's just one single crochet into each stitch across. So for row 30 we are going to be turning the work, and we're basically going to be doing the opposite of the decrease row. We're going to be increasing this time, and we're also going to add an increase into sort of roughly the middle. So at this point you should have 22 stitches in your row. So you're going to turn the work and make an increase into the first stitch, so that's 2 single crochets into that same stitch. So that's 1 and that's 2. And then I'm just going to make one single crochet across until I reach sort of roughly the middle, and I don't really count because it doesn't really need to be specific, you just need to kind of get it roughly in the middle. So I'm going to meet you back once I have reached sort of this middle section here, and then I will make another increase. Okay, so into the next stitch I'm just going to make an increase again, so 2 single crochets. And then I'm going to continue to single crochet across, and then once I reach the very last stitch I'm going to make another increase. Okay, so you should now have 25 stitches in your row, and for row 31 we are going to be repeating the same thing. So I'm going to make 2 single crochets into the first stitch, and then I'm going to make a single crochet across, and then once I reach roughly the middle I'm going to make another increase. Okay, so I'm going to make an increase into the next stitch, and then I'm going to continue to single crochet across, and then into that final stitch I'm going to make another increase. Okay, so now we have finished row 31, we're now going to move on to row 32, and after your 31st row you should now have 28 stitches. So for row 32, this is the final row of the white base, the main part of it. We're going to turn the work and we're going to make one single crochet into each stitch across, so you'll still have 28 stitches by the end of the row. Okay, so that is the final row. We're now just going to continue to make one single crochet down the side of the mushroom, all the way around, across, and then back up. So for a bit of guidance, you are going to be making 32 single crochets around the side here, because that is how many rows we have. So we make as many rows as we have around the side, and then across you will have 44 single crochets, because that's how many we chained. And then the same thing up here, we'll make 32 single crochets all the way around. And then I'm going to slip stitch back into the first stitch of this row and then fasten off. So I'm just going to kind of talk you through it though. The last stitch that we have of this row is going to count as our first stitch down the edge. So now we're going to be doing 31 single crochets. So I'm going to go into the next sort of side stitch if I can find, make a single crochet, and then I'm going to make one single crochet into the next space, and then one single crochet into the next space, and I'm just going to continue making a single crochet into each space, making sure that by the time I get to the end I have done 31 in total, and then I will meet you back once I have reached this corner here. So I've now just reached the corner, so I'm going to now kind of turn the work so that I'm working upside down, and I'm going to make 44 single crochets across the bottom. So as you can see here, these little V's are there, and that's because we did our single crochets at the beginning in the back bump, so it just makes it a little bit easier for us to work in these stitches. So I'm going to go into the first stitch along the bottom, make my single crochet, and then one in the next, and then one in the next, and one in the next. I'm just going to continue this all the way along the edge, and then once I have made my 44th single crochet, I'm going to repeat what I did on this edge, but it's kind of going to be in the opposite direction. I'm now going from the bottom to the top, but it will still be 31 single crochets across the edge, and then I will meet you back once I have got to that top corner where we will fasten off. So yeah, as a recap, I'm going to make 44 single crochets across the bottom, and then I'm going to make 31 single crochets across the edge, and then I'm going to stop at the corner and meet you back there. Okay, so I've now just finished my last edge of single crochet, where I made 31 single crochets. So I'm now just going to slip stitch into the first stitch of the row like that, and then I'm just going to chain one and fasten off. So this is what the base of the mushroom is looking like so far, and now we're going to be working on the bottom of the base because I want to round this kind of off a little bit. So I'm actually going to flip the work around so that we're working upside down. We're going to grab the cream yarn again and make a slip knot. We're going to attach it at the bottom corner. So if you're right-handed, you'll attach it at the bottom right corner. If you're left-handed, you will attach it at the bottom left corner. So I'm going to insert the hook into that first stitch of this kind of row here, and I'm going to place the slip knot onto the hook, and then I'm going to pull it through this stitch and then just chain one to fasten. And this is going to count as our first stitch, so we're not going to do anything more in this stitch, we're just going to leave the chain one there. And then for this row, we're actually going to skip the next stitch, and then we're going to make a single crochet into the next two stitches. So I'm going to skip this stitch and make a single crochet, and then I'm going to single crochet into the next stitch, weaving that tail in as I go. So next we are going to be repeating these next few steps for the rest of the row. So we're going to skip the next stitch, and then we're going to make one single crochet into the next three stitches. So I'm going to skip this stitch and make a single crochet, and then I'm going to make a single crochet again into the next stitch, and then a single crochet again into the third stitch. So I'm going to be repeating that all the way across, so skipping the next stitch and making one single crochet into the next three stitches. So that's 1, 2 and 3. again, skip the next stitch, make 1 single crochet into the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to continue this all the way along. And if you're noticing that your work is kind of curling over, that's completely fine, that's normal, because we're going to be attaching 2 panels together anyway, so the curling doesn't matter, and we're also going to be stuffing it, so it's perfectly fine. So I'm going to continue that all the way across, and then I will meet you back once I have reached that corner. But make sure that you are not going anywhere along the side. Okay, so you want to make sure that you stop at that 44th stitch like we have along this edge. So yeah, I will meet you back at the 44th stitch. So I've just finished the row. You should now have 33 stitches. So we're now going to be working on the second row of the bottom of the mushroom. So I'm going to turn the work, and we are going to start off with a decrease. So we're going to skip the first stitch and single crochet into the next stitch. And then I'm going to continue single crocheting across until I reach the middle here roughly, and then I am going to make a decrease in the middle. So again, this doesn't have to be like super accurate at the exact part of the middle, but just roughly in the middle, and then I'm going to make that decrease. So I'm just going to single crochet across. Okay, so I've reached sort of roughly the middle. I'm now just going to skip the next stitch and continue to single crochet into the next stitch. And then I'm just going to single crochet all the way to the end, and then I'm going to stop at my very last 2 stitches. Remember that our first stitch was where we attached the yarn, so that stitch is going to look slightly different. It's probably going to look more like a slip stitch, but as you can see there, it's like a smaller V than all of the others. So you're going to want to remember that that is where the final stitch is. So I'm going to stop when there are those 2 stitches left. Okay, so I've now got to my 2 last stitches. I'm going to skip the next stitch and make a single crochet into that last stitch. That is the end of the second row of the bottom, so you should now have 30 stitches. So for the third row, we are going to be turning the work. We are going to skip the first stitch and make a single crochet into the next 4 stitches. So skipping, and then 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we're going to skip the next stitch, and we're going to make a single crochet into the next 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And again, skipping the next stitch, making a single crochet into the next 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'm going to repeat this pattern all the way to the end, so I will meet you back at the end of the row. So once you have finished the third row, you should now have 24 stitches in your row. We're now going to start row 4, so we're going to turn the work, and it's going to be similar to row 3, except we are now making 5 single crochets instead of 4. So we're going to skip the first stitch, and then we're going to make 1 single crochet into the next 5 stitches. So skipping, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Skipping the next stitch, and then 5 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, skipping the next stitch, 5 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I'm going to continue this now until the end of the row, and then I will meet you back. So after that 4th row, you should now have 20 stitches in the row, and we're now going to do row 5. So we're going to turn the work, same as normal. So we're going to be skipping the first stitch, and then we're going to be making 1 single crochet into the next 4 stitches. So skipping the first stitch, and then 1, 2, 3, and 4. Skipping the next stitch, and then 4 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to continue this all the way along and then I will meet you back. So once you have done row 5, you should have 16 stitches in the row, and we're going to start the last row now. So this is row 6, so I'm going to turn the work. We're going to skip the first stitch and make a single crochet, and then we're going to single crochet all the way across until we have 2 stitches left in the row, and then I'm going to skip the second to last stitch, and then I'm going to make a single crochet into that last stitch. So I'm going to single crochet all the way across. Okay, so now we have our last 2 stitches. I'm going to skip the next stitch and single crochet into the last stitch. Okay, so you should now have 14 stitches in your last row, and I am just going to chain 1 and fasten off, and then when we flip it back over, we lay it down. This is what the base of the mushroom is looking like. Again, don't worry too much about the curling because it's going to be stuffed anyway, so it's going to be fine. This is just how it looks before you attach it and stuff it. So you should have this kind of base where it kind of goes out at the sides, and then it comes in and goes down, and then it kind of rounds at the bottom. So that is the white base all finished. We are now going to be working on the top of the mushroom, which is the red portion. So we're now working on the red portion, so you're going to need your red yarn, and you're going to want to make a slip knot. Okay, and then you're going to want to attach it to the hook and then just pull tight. And now I'm going to make a chain of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So just as a kind of bit of guidance, if you're left-handed, you're going to be attaching this chain to the top left corner, so that first stitch of the row. And if you're right-handed, your row will be kind of like facing, sorry, your chain will be facing this way, and then you will attach your chain at the top right corner here. So we are going to pick up our base of the mushroom, and we're going to go into that first stitch of the row, as you can see here where we made that slip stitch. So we're going to go into that same stitch there. If you're right-handed, it's going to be over here. We're going to make a single crochet into that stitch to kind of attach that chain, as you can see there. And I'm going to bring this white tail to the back so that I can weave it in, and then that way it's not in the way. So I'm now just going to make 1 single crochet across here. So going into the next stitch, making a single crochet, and I am including this white tail so that it is included and tucked away. So just making 1 single crochet into each stitch across. Okay, so those are the single crochets I made, and just as a reminder, we had 28 stitches in that final row, so you want to make sure that you have 28 single crochets across. We're now going to make a chain of 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. Okay, so this is what it should be looking like. So you have a chain this side and a chain this side. We're going to turn the work around like this, okay, and we're now going to be working into the back of the chain. So I'm not going to be working into those back bumps, but I am just going to be working into like the top loop of the back of the chain. So I'm going to kind of find that top loop, so it's right there, right there. So I'm going to make a single crochet into that second chain, and then I'm going to make 1 single crochet into each chain. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, and last one 6. I'm then going to make 1 single crochet into each stitch, so remember that's 28 single crochets, and then I will meet you back once I have reached my last single crochet, and then we will do the chain together. Okay, so I've just finished my last single crochet of the middle part. We're now going to be making 1 single crochet into each chain. So there's the first one. Find the first one. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Okay, so once you have finished your first row, you should have 40 stitches of this red portion here, so 6 on the edges, 6 on each, and then 28 in the middle. So we're now going to be working onto the second row, so I'm going to turn the work. So I'm going to turn the work, and then I'm just going to tuck this end to the back, and then I'm going to crochet it into the work, and I'm just going to make 1 single crochet into each stitch across. And 6, and I'm just going to continue this all the way across, and then I'm going to turn the work and I'm going to single crochet all the way across in the other direction for row 3. So I will meet you back once I have finished row 3, and I'll be at this point here but on the other side. So yeah, I will meet you back when I finish row 3. Okay, so I've just finished the third row, so I'm now going to start the fourth row. So I'm going to turn the work, and I'm going to skip the first stitch and then single crochet into the second stitch. Then I'm going to single crochet all the way across, and I'm going to stop at my very last 2 stitches, skip the second to last and make a single crochet into that last stitch. So I'm basically making a decrease row. So I've got my last 2 stitches, I'm going to skip the next stitch and single crochet into the last stitch. Okay, and then that is the end of row 4. So you should now have 38 stitches at the end of the row. So you're going to want to repeat row 4 where you make a decrease at either edge until you have reached row 12, and then at row 12 you should have 22 stitches in the row. So I'm going to come back once I have finished row 12, and then we can start on row 13. Okay, so I've just finished row 12 and I have 22 stitches in the row, and we're now going to start row 13. So I'm going to turn the work, and I'm going to just make 1 single crochet into each stitch across. So for row 14 I'm going to turn the work, and we're going to make a decrease row, so I'm going to skip the first stitch and make a single crochet into the second stitch, and then I'm going to single crochet across until I have the last 2, and then I'm going to skip the second to last and make a single crochet into the last stitch. Okay, so you should now have 20 stitches in the row. We're now going to be repeating row 13 and then row 14 and then row 13 and then row 14, so you're going to alternate each until you reach row 20. And row 20 is going to be a decrease row, and you should have 14 stitches by the end. So I will come back at row 20. So I've just finished my 20th row and I have 14 stitches in the row. So for row 21 and 22 it is both going to be a decrease row, so I'm just going to skip the first stitch, single crochet into the next, single crochet across, and then skip the second to last and single crochet into the last, and then I'm going to repeat that again for row 22. So I'm going to do that now, and then when I get to the end of row 22 I should have 10 stitches. Okay, so we're now going to work on row 23, which is the final row of the red portion. So we're going to turn the work, we're going to skip the next stitch, and then we're going to single crochet into the next 2 stitches. That's 1 and then 2. We're going to skip the next stitch and then single crochet into the next 2 stitches. 1 and 2. We're then going to skip the next stitch and single crochet into the next 2 stitches. So skip, and then 1 and 2. And then we are going to slip stitch into the very last stitch. So you should have 7 stitches at the end of the row. So we are now just going to chain 1 and fasten off. Okay, and so that is the red portion of the mushroom all finished. So we're now going to be working on the spots. So you're going to need your stitch marker for this, and I'm also picking up the cream yarn. So I'm going to make a slip knot. And then just place that on the hook, and then I'm going to make a chain of 3. 1, 2, 3, like that. And then I'm going to make a slip stitch into the 3rd chain from the hook, so 1, 2, 3, like that. And you're going to kind of want to spread the ring apart until you can find that center hole right in that gap right there. And I am going to be making 6 single crochets into that gap. We're then going to want to pull the short tail tight to close the ring. And then you're just going to want to place your stitch marker onto that very last stitch, and that is going to mark the end of the round. So that is round 1 finished. So for round 2 we are going to be making 2 single crochets into each stitch. So I'm going to go into the first stitch, include the tail so that that's weaved in, and make 2 single crochets, 1 and 2, and then I'm going to make 2 single crochets into each stitch all the way around. 1, 2, and then just replace the stitch marker into that last stitch that you made. So for round 3, this is the final round, we are going to be making 1 single crochet into the first stitch and 2 single crochets into the second stitch. So 1 into the first stitch and then 2 into the second stitch, and then repeat that, 1 into the next stitch and 2 into the next stitch. Okay, so once you have finished the 3rd round, you should have 18 stitches, and you don't need to replace the stitch marker here because we are all finished. So we're just going to slip stitch into the next stitch to kind of round off the circle. Just make a slip stitch, and then I'm just going to chain 1 and fasten off. You want to make sure that you are leaving a long tail because you're going to be sewing this on later on. And I will have up on screen how many spots I ended up making in total. So this is for the small spot. So for the oval spots, again, I'm going to take my cream yarn and I'm going to make a slip knot. And then we're going to chain 3, slip stitch into the 3rd chain from the hook. Okay, we're then going to separate the ring and we're going to make 6 single crochets into the middle of the ring. So you're going to want to pull the ring tight to close it. Sorry, pull the tail tight, not the ring. and then you're going to place your stitch marker in that very last stitch that you made. Okay, so for the next round we are going to be doing the same as the small spots. We're going to make 2 single crochets into each stitch around. Okay, so for round 3 we're going to make 1 single crochet into the first stitch and then 2 single crochets into the second stitch. So 1, 2, 1, 2 all the way around. Okay, so you should have 18 stitches by this point. For round 4 we are going to make 1 single crochet into the next 8 stitches. Into the next stitch we're going to make 1 single crochet, 1 half double crochet and 1 single crochet all into the same stitch. So single crochet, yarn over, half double crochet and single crochet. We're then going to make 1 single crochet into the next 8 stitches. Okay, and then into the very last stitch, again I'm going to make a single crochet, a half double crochet and then a single crochet into the same stitch. So single crochet, half double crochet and a single crochet. And then I'm just going to slip stitch into the next stitch. And then I'm going to chain 1 and fasten off. And I'm going to leave a long tail for sewing. So I'm going to pull that through. Okay, and that is what the oval spot is looking like. So you should now have a small spot and then you should have an oval spot. And I will have on screen how many I ended up making of each. So once you have made all of your circles, I ended up doing 5 small circles and 3 large oval circles. You're going to want to make a second mushroom panel, and then I'm just going to set one aside and we're going to just be focusing on one. So I'm going to try and flatten this out as best as I can. Don't worry too much about the bottom, it's just more the top that you need to flatten out. You could always, if it is curling up, you could always put some sort of weight on it. So I'm just going to put this box on the top like this, and then you're going to want to arrange your circles across the top of the mushroom in kind of a little pattern that you like. Okay, so I've just arranged my circles, so I've done a large oval and then a small one, large oval and then a small one, and then I've done 2 small ones here and an oval in the middle, and then I've just done one at the top. So I'm just going to kind of take a picture of this, memorize it, and then I'm going to take them all off and I'm going to sew each one all around. So I'm just going to be using my sewing needle for this, and I'm just basically going to go through to the back of the mushroom panel and then into a space next to it, back up, and then basically just sewing around the edge into the space that I want. Okay, so I'm just going to start here. I'm just going to flip it around so it's a bit easier. And I'm just going to basically just sew around the edge. Okay, and then once you have sewn your first spot, you're just going to make sure that you bring it round to the back, and then I'm just going to go into a stitch here and then pull through, kind of leaving a small loop, and we'll just go through that loop to make a knot, pull tight, and then again go through the same stitch, pull through and then leave a loop, go through the loop and then pull tight to make a double knot. And then I'm just going to kind of weave that in a little bit more so that it's secure, and then you can just cut the yarn. So that is how I just sewed on each spot. So I'm going to do this now for the other ones in the arrangement that I made. So I'm going to come back when all of the spots are sewn on. Okay, so this is what it should be looking like once you have sewn on all of the spots, and we're now going to join the two panels together. So we're going to start off by joining the bottom like white section. So I'm going to make sure that you have your spots side facing up, and then you want your right side of your second panel to be facing down, so that when you put them on top of each other, both the right sides are facing on the outside. So I'm just going to lay them on top of each other like this, and then you're going to grab your cream yarn and make a slip knot. Because I'm left-handed, I'm going to be working in this corner and then going round and up. However, if you are right-handed, then you will probably be working in this corner here. So if you're right-handed, start at this corner here and then work round. I'm left-handed, so I'm going to start in this corner. So I'm just going to pop my hook into that first stitch that we made when we did the border, and the same on the other stitch on the second panel. So you should have 2 stitches on the hook, and then you're going to want to place your slip knot on the hook, and then you're going to pull the slip knot through both of the loops like that, and then chain 1 to just fasten it together. And then we're going to be making single crochets through both stitches all the way around the border, and I'm going to tuck these ends in as I go. So going into the next stitch of the first panel like that, and then looping those ends over, and then into the second stitch of the next panel, and then make a single crochet through all of those loops like that, and then again repeat that in the second one, single crochet into the next stitch, sorry, insert the hook into the next stitch, insert the hook into the second stitch, and make a single crochet. And we're just going to continue making a single crochet through each stitch on both panels until I get to the bottom part. So I will meet you back once I have finished single crocheting all around the side edge here, and then I will meet you back at this corner. So I've just reached the corner of the side of the mushroom, so I'm now at the bottom right corner. So I'm basically, you should notice that now there aren't any particular like stitches to crochet into, it's kind of just like these side bumps, and that was because we were turning the work and then like decreasing. So I'm just basically going to hold the panels together and then go into like the next like loop that I see, and then the next loop in the back, and make a single crochet as normal. So it's basically the same process, but instead of crocheting into an actual stitch, you're just trying to find like loops that kind of match when you hold them together. So I'm just doing that all the way across. Okay, and then you should notice that now we just have normal stitches that we can go into. So I'm going to go into the next stitch, and the next stitch of the second panel, and then just make a single crochet. And I'm going to continue crocheting, making single crochets through both sides all the way across to join the panels together. Okay, and then I'm going to continue that all the way across, and then the same applies when we reach this corner here. I'm just going to crochet kind of into those loops, and then continue to single crochet through both stitches on each side. So I will meet you back once I have reached this kind of top left corner of the white base of the mushroom. Okay, Okay, so I've just finished my last single crochet into that top corner, so now I'm just going to chain 1 and fasten off. Okay, so this is what it should be looking like. You have like a nice border around the edge, and now I'm just going to stuff this part of the mushroom, but I'm going to kind of leave a little bit of a space at the top because we're going to be crocheting around this edge here, so we don't want any stuffing spilling over the edges and then it kind of being crocheted into our work, because then it kind of just looks a bit unneat. So I'm going to stop like a few rows above just to kind of give some space. So I'm going to just take the stuffing, start popping it into the bottom, and you can use as much stuffing as you want, but just know that the more stuffing you add, the more dense your pillow will be, so it probably won't be as comfortable if there's more stuffing. Okay, so I've reached the amount of stuffing that I think looks quite good, so we're now going to move on to crocheting around this border, the red portion. So we're now going to be joining the red panels together, so you're going to want to take your red yarn and make a slip knot. Okay, and you're going to want to, with this cream tail, kind of tuck it down for the minute into the middle here, and you're going to insert your hook into the first red like stitch here. You're going to loop the white cream stitch tail over the hook, and then insert the hook into the next red stitch on the back panel. So you should technically be having like two red loops and then the cream in the middle. And then you're going to take your slip knot, place that on the hook, and then you're going to pull through all of those loops and then chain 1. So you're going to want to pull tight on that cream tail, and then just like we've been doing before, I'm just going to make 1 single crochet all around the edge of the mushroom, but I'm actually going to stop once I get to this top left corner here. If you're right-handed, you'll be starting in this corner, working up, and then stopping at the top right corner. So yeah, I'm just going to basically continue to single crochet all the way along into each stitch. So now that I have crocheted up to this edge, I'm now just going to stuff the top of the mushroom a little bit more, and also where I stopped at the base here. So now I'm just going to continue to single crochet across the top, and then I'm going to stuff it a bit more, and then I'm going to continue single crocheting both panels together until I reach about halfway, and then stuff the final section, and then I will meet you back once I have reached this sort of bottom corner here, and then we will fasten off together. So I've just finished my last stitch in this corner here. It does get a little bit fiddly around this sort of last edge, but just take your time. So now I'm just going to chain 1 and then cut the yarn to fasten off, and then with your hook you can just feed the tail through to the back of the mushroom. Okay, and this is what the mushroom pillow is looking like.
Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hoped you enjoyed making this project along with me, and if you have any ideas of what you'd like me to make next, feel free to leave them in the comments below, and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys.